Good morning and welcome everybody. It is 8 a.m. Technically it's 8:02 here in sunny California. It's a little bit later where Jesse is. Jesse, it's 5 o'clock over there?
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock. I should actually be going because it's like end of the working day, man.
Yeah, well, it's the start of the week, so we're gonna make you do a little overtime today. It's gonna be fun.
Oh, no.
Nathaniel's like, it's not 5 o'clock, it's not 8 o'clock.
No.
It's like you're like the bear in the
10.
middle. It's
I am.
just
That's right.
right. 10
That's right.
a.m. in Central Time. Who are we? What are we doing here, gentlemen? This is all about no code, low code a little bit too, of course. But what are we talking about? We're talking about citizen no coders, also known as citizen coders. We'll get to the no in a minute. Are changing businesses 10 times faster on a budget. We're going to tell you all about it. If you've not heard of low code or no code or citizen development, what the heck are you talking about, Ira? Well, you're probably married to me. My wife is used to not understanding what I'm talking about. My kids, a little bit, they can translate. But for those of you who are not sure what I'm talking about, we're going to get into it today because this really is changing the world. A lot of people are talking about Chat GBT. They're talking about Alexa and Siri. They're talking about no design tools, drag and drop tools on websites. We're talking about getting out of spreadsheets. We're talking about animating the processes and doing it without spending tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars and waiting 12 months, 18 months, however long the project might take. Maybe you need a new app for your business. Well, guess what? You can build it yourself, or you can hire somebody like Low Code Road to do it, thanks to companies like Triggre, platforms that are creating this opportunity for you to get what you need faster, not overtaxing your IT department, not hiring outside developers at crazy prices who don't understand your business. That is what we're talking about in a nutshell. We're going to get into all the particulars right now. But before we do that, gentlemen, let's introduce each other a little bit so the crowd knows who we're talking to, and it'll give me a chance to type in the comments and share some of this stuff. But let's do this. Jesse, since you're on the top of my screen, I'm going to let you start, and let's do like a 90-second introduction. Tell people a little about yourself, and then we're going to come back in a second. You can introduce yourself first. We'll introduce Triggre in just a moment, okay?
Yeah, that's good. Cool. Thanks. Yeah, so my name is Jesse. I am one of the two founders of Triggre, which is a no-code platform for businesses to build custom complex business applications. Think like warehouse management, other things. My background is actually in software engineering. I'm one of those coders that Ira was talking about back in the day. And I started my first company at 19 during my university days, and I very quickly realized that building software was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be as I entered uni. I had this like dream of it being super easy or something. Like I would learn how to put my ideas into code and then distribute it over the world, and it was going to be awesome. And well, then I hit first year of uni, and it turns out that I had to do a lot of maths and other things. And I was like, yeah, it's all important, but is it really this hard to build something? So later on, after my first company, I met my current business partner, Mark, and we had a company for a while together, which did software projects. So we sort of dove into that even more with outsourcing teams and everything. And we're like, oh my God, it cannot be this hard. And that's where the idea for Triggre came along. So that's sort of my journey through the wondrous world of software. Yeah.
That is incredible. And you keep saying uni. In the United
Yeah.
States, for those of you who don't recognize that, I mean, he means college. He's talking about university. I don't know. I think when you say uni, I think of a unicycle. I don't know.
Oh, okay. No, I mean university, the thing that gives you a master's degree thing where you go like, oh, gee, thanks. I have a paper that says that
Now I have a piece of paper.
I'm sort of
If you haven't figured
okay
it
at
out,
something.
I'm a little bit on the silly side sometimes. Sorry, man. I can't help myself.
It's early morning. It's 8 a.m.
It's
I
8
mean,
a.m.
It's
and I
okay.
haven't really, in full disclosure, I've had about 3 sips of coffee, so I'm going to be hitting
yeah,
this thing pretty hard in a minute. Nathaniel is used to my shenanigans, but for those of you who don't know, Nathaniel is one of my good friends out of Nashville, Tennessee. I'm gonna let him do this is not his favorite thing to do, just so you know. He's not a front of the camera guy. But
not
I
really.
applaud you for your I think that's the first time I've had you on a show, actually.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. So
Although
thank you.
we talk like this all the time, so
Yeah,
I have
we
to
do.
remember we're actually going out live to the world. Nathaniel, 90 seconds. Tell everybody who doesn't already know you. Tell them a little bit about yourself, who you are.
So Nathaniel Holtzman, out of Nashville. We I actually, similar to Jesse, I started in the software development world. And about 8 years ago, we founded a company called Low Code Road. And what we do is we work with businesses because, again, being in the software world, Jesse, I didn't know that you were an engineer or formerly an engineer. No, I've definitely got the same thing on the product side, right? Product and project management. Traditional software is a lot of it is a lot more expensive and a lot harder than it needs to be. And so, I've done that. I've done everything from government work to nonprofit work to for-profit work, doing understanding the business needs and building amazing software, with amazing developers to help deliver it. And when we saw this new opportunity, we're like, oh, we got to jump all over it. So that's what got me to where I am today. We are an agency now doing software development, but our specific focus is low code and no code platforms. So
We're gonna get if anybody is hearing me say low code and no code, or you just heard Nathaniel reference it, we're going to get into that in a lot of detail in a minute. In fact, gentlemen, just to prepare you, one of the questions is what's the difference between low code and no code? So,
Yeah,
well,
you have to pull us out of that bubble that we are in because we are
right.
very
Well,
much in
here's
our
the thing.
bubble.
There's so many people out there that are watching right now. In fact, this show is a little lighter than what I'm used to. And I think part
Yeah.
of it, well, we have 34 people watching us live on LinkedIn. But why I think here's the thing, right? You mentioned project management. Nathaniel, Jesse, you mentioned, writing software, coding. That is, those are things that most people don't even understand. Like they hear it and their eyes glaze over
yeah,
because
Yeah.
they really have no idea what is it that you actually mean, right? What does it
Yeah.
do? They don't know. Like they didn't go to university, they didn't go to college, they didn't get a 4-year degree or whatever on coding. So a lot of
Mhm.
us, when we think of coding, we think of either the DNA, right, the genetic code, or we think of ones and zeros, right? That's about as far as most of us take it.
Yeah.
So let's do this a little bit. Since Jesse, you run Triggre, and we should probably introduce Triggre, but we'll do it after this question because I think this is going to help set a foundation for everybody to understand what it is we're even talking about. Okay, they gotta like us and understand us a little bit before they care what we are and who what we do, right? So why don't you take 90 seconds to kind of describe what no code is? And then Nathaniel, I'm going to come back to you and I'll have you describe what low code is in 90 seconds, just as a foundational piece. We don't have to,
Yeah,
verbally
absolutely.
vomit on people, but just give them a foundation. What is it that we're talking about? What is this low code? What is this no code? 90 seconds each, gentlemen.
Yeah. So when it comes to no code, because that's where I'm most versed in. Basically, what it means is that you can build an application or an app without having to know anything about coding. So I was telling in the introduction how I learned all these tough things, and there's a lot of things that come around when you have to develop an application that works well, that has good performance, like it's fast. And these are the things that you and I are now used to, but they're all built by programmers, right? And so this is kind of akin to the DIY in your own apartment. Now, a little disclaimer, I'm currently in the process of having my new apartment renovated. And I am one of those people who cannot do that themselves. So if you're like me and you can't do that yourself because I'm bad with the wires and with the plumbing and everything, I have people who do it for me that are very versed at that. But it would go much faster if these were like building blocks that I could very easily put there myself in a configuration that I would want with a lot of freedom in how I put it together. And that is sort of what no code is like allowing me as well, we say a citizen developer or but let's say sort of a regular person who's not had the 4 years of college or university degree to actually know all the intricacies to build something
That's
regardless
me.
of not having that background. Yeah, like Ira, exactly. Yeah.
And
So
look,
that's
I
roughly no
used low
code.
code. I didn't know it was called low code, but I've been using low
Exactly.
code, right, for a while. I just didn't realize that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah, many people might have heard of things like WordPress or Shopify. There's a lot of these platforms that give you the ability to make something without having to code, and that's what no code is. And then you have a lot of different flavors in that, obviously. Yeah.
100%. All right, Mr. Nathaniel, I think you have the little bit harder of the two, but actually,
Nah,
as I was
it's
working,
okay. That the biggest difference between no code, which is what Jesse's talking about, and low code is level of complexity. Because sometimes you need to do a little bit more, right? You need integration between systems. You need systems to be able to talk to each other. I need to get data from one system to another. Or, for example, with low code, it's sometimes just adding what we call scripts. Or think about like Excel and what you're doing with those Excel formulas, right? Sometimes they're pretty simple and sometimes you can get stupid complex. I say that in the best way possible because you can have, so many parentheses. You're like, okay, I got to count the parentheses in and out of my formula or Excel's going to scream at me, right? And that's when we get into that's the differentiation. It's almost like how many parentheses um, that you're dealing with, right? I mean that's it's they're almost it's like almost the same. The only difference is how many parentheses, I think, is a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
yep,
So that's the difference. I mean, it's sort of like WordPress. If you're familiar with WordPress, WordPress is a good example. You can drag and drop. You've got a lot of great tools, plugins like Divi that allow you to do, just drag and drop, and then you can go in and edit the PHP and edit the
PhD,
code.
you
Yeah, I just
Is that
don't
magic?
confuse us too fast here, brother.
yeah, no, it's just basically editing the underlying code. You can go in and
Yeah.
hack it, so to speak, and that's
Gotcha.
the that's the benefit.
Yeah,
That's where
I
low
would
code
I would
comes
say this. I'm working on an FAQ. So the FAQ asked the question, what's the difference between no code and low code? And tongue in cheek, I said, a lot of that answer is actually in the name, right?
Yeah,
No code,
that's exactly
anybody can do it. You don't need any coding experience at all. You just have to understand what it is that you want to do, which
correct.
Jesse, in your answer, you had referenced citizen coder. We'll get back into that a little bit, but that's basically what we're talking about here. Somebody in a department who knows what they need, but doesn't have the
Exactly.
technical prowess to create it, can use a no code tool and create it without any code. With low code, they can create almost everything exactly the same, except for usually, like Nathaniel was just referencing here, there's something a little bit more robust here that you need. And you might need a little bit of code. And usually that's for the finishing or for the nuances that make your specific solution unique. And so you need a little bit of coding background to finish it. And that's really the difference. Obviously, if you're needing a low code tool, and you don't know how to code, that's where somebody like Low Code Road comes into play. Like, okay, I know what I need. I don't have the experience to do it. Can I find somebody out there who will help me? The answer is yes. And that answer comes to us today in the form of Nathaniel H. So, Jesse, it's obvious what Low Code Road is helping with, people figuring out what they need and then kind of filling in the code that they don't know how to provide. And then there's more that they do. Obviously, they'll maintain the site and things like that, or the app and help.
Mhm.
But hey, good morning, Damon. Damon's one of my good friends. Nice to see you. He comes by the way of Seattle, the Washington area, but he's from South Dakota, so he's good people. He's out there in the heartland. Anyways, with low code technology, you unless you're a coder, you're going to need some help.
Yeah.
But with Triggre being no code, so you guys are the platform that people are using. Are you also helping folks at Triggre develop, like if they don't know how to put it together, are you doing that or how do you handle that?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question because obviously, yes, you can do it yourself, right? But then Nathaniel is also one of our partners. So how does that work? Well, for us, what we see one is there. If you want to do something yourself, that's fine. That's good. You can do that. We have customers who actually build things themselves, and that's nice. Hey, Omar. So that's good. But there are certain situations where we see that people need some help, and it can either be that they want to have a sparring partner to discuss, like, okay, how do I best solve this process, how can I best handle this. Usually these days applications don't live on their own, they're not isolated, so they are usually connected to maybe your bookkeeping system or some other systems in your application landscape, as we would call it in a nice way. And with those connections, that's something that often we see customers want some help with setting it up in a correct way. So what we usually do is we have a partner and a customer go at it together, and then slowly over time, parts of the application a customer can do themselves. So that's much faster. But then when they need some help, they can call the partner that they trust because the partner knows the application. They can help you with maybe new angles, maybe with their experience in other customers' applications to give you a new insight or a new way to handle something. And that is a really powerful combination, we feel.
Yeah.
And that's what we see, at least.
I totally agree, Jesse. That's exactly how we do things at Low Code Road. Is our goal is a partnership, a long-term partnership, working with the client to make sure that they get exactly what they need. And the biggest thing that you know that we see with Triggre is that it is such a powerful platform to help businesses streamline their operations and get good data insights. You know, the operations in particular, it's a great workflow platform, helps you generate, exactly what you need in that process management, which is why we love working with Triggre, because it's a great platform for that.
We're
Thanks.
gonna we're gonna come back to Triggre in just a second. I'm kind of what I'm trying to do here, I think, is funnel people from not knowing anything about low code or no code. For
Yeah.
those of you who are joining who don't, if you are if you're an avid user of any of these, right? You've used these tools, you've got a question specifically that you want to ask Jesse or Nathaniel, because look, this is rare access that you get direct to the top folks in an organization like Triggre or Low Code Road, unfettered access, if you will. go ahead and put those questions in the comments now. I will come to them and I will ask them for you. First in will definitely get asked first. All right. But gentlemen, what I'm trying to do is take the people on the fringes who have never, maybe
Yeah, so I'm
they
going to
know
jump
about
in,
it.
Ira, if it's all right. I'm going to jump in and say everyone in business is using. Uh, th- th- I haven't yet found a business. Let's put it this way: I haven't yet found a business that does not use Excel to manage information. Yeah, they're using Excel to either manage information or manage flow, right? And manage a process. And either Excel or like Airtable or some of the other spreadsheet-ish platforms that are out there, Google Sheets, right? And the reason is because your main system doesn't work and you're having to hack together information. And so what we do is we come in and help solve those process problems. In particular, when you're at one of two places, one, you've got it locked down. So as a business, it's like, this is how we do things. This is how we solve this problem. And oh, by the way, it happens to be Excel. Or it's, okay, I've got this process, I've got it locked down, but now I need to give it to three other people, right? I need to scale it. And both of those issues are ones that need to be addressed and dealt with before the company can grow.
Yeah.
So if you're still in the early stages where you're making changes and stuff, low code, no code, those are great platforms, but it's a little harder because you're still dialing it in, that process. But once you've got it dialed in and locked in, that's when no code really shines, because now I need to grow it. I need to scale it, incorporate more people. And that's what businesses need, is this platform to really grow, because the only other option is custom software, and that's way too expensive.
Yeah. Hang on. So you've covered like 6 topics I was going to ask you all in one sentence, but that's all right. We'll come back to it. Bite size. You have
All
to
right.
remember, here's where the crowd is, okay? Because you guys live in this and you breathe it every day. So you totally understand what you're saying and the logic behind it, and you've just walked a very logical path. The problem is most people watching are still lost. They're like, what is no
Yeah.
code? What's low code, right? So the very first thing that people have to understand is you've probably used a no code tool somewhere along the way and just didn't realize that it was low code. So
Yeah.
again, Jesse has referenced WordPress. I referenced WordPress earlier before. Uh, Nathaniel just
Shopify.
referenced Airtable and some other tools that you might be familiar with, but you might not, and that's okay. Here's the bottom line. Most companies, when they start, they create solutions that fit a small organization. And then what happens if they're successful, they grow. Now you have what I call growing pains. You don't necessarily know what to do about it. Well, in the old days, what you had to do was you either had to hire somebody as an extreme expense to come in and learn your business who knew coding and then have them develop the software, right? And it was expensive and it took a lot of time. And then when they implemented it, what usually happened was there had to be iterations, versions. Okay, here's the rough draft. Oh, it doesn't work because, and then you'd have to meet with departments, right? And they would use it and go, okay, well, it works good, but this doesn't work and that doesn't work. Okay, we'll change it, because the person writing the code didn't understand your business really, right? They'd only been inside your business for 3 weeks or 6 weeks, whatever that was. They didn't understand it. Well, a citizen coder, let's get to this question. What is a citizen coder? And the reason why this is important for those of you watching is because this is a term that kind of freaks people out, but it really shouldn't, because it's just a simple way to say you're not a coder. You're just a what? Jesse, we'll let you answer this. You're just a what? If you're a citizen coder, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think that Gartner terms it citizen developer.
Mhm.
So it's like they take it slightly away from the code, from the
Yeah.
scary part. But basically, yeah, because I mean, I look at code sometimes and I go like, oh my god, did I write this? This is scary stuff.
Syntax
And
errors all over the place. That's what Jesse's good
oh
at. No, I'm just joking.
yes, don't let me near any code. Trust me, it's been too long. But no. So basically, what it means, like we said, is developing it yourself. And what I refer to, I vividly remember this. The problem often with developing software is that you ask for something and you think that it's going to be easy. So to give you a really interesting example from early career from my business partner and me, my business partner had run this company which built a system which could create online. You could create a PDF, and it was for memorial things. And so they sold it to this company, right? And then the company was like, okay, we want to add this and this and this and this. And then the developer said, well, yeah, we can do all those things, but it's better to start all over. And as a business person, you go like, what?
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? I had the awesome job of explaining to my business partner that that was actually a good thing and it was going to go faster the second time, but that's not a fun message. And sort of that, there's a big discrepancy between what you think you're going to get from a business point of view and what you can actually do as a programmer, because you've taken a certain road to a solution and it no longer fits with new requirements.
Yeah.
So citizen development is actually to give you back that freedom of being able to more closely to your business demands build your software systems. And I would say that no code no loco is mostly used if you, again, for my apartment, I have this concrete wall and I have a wooden board. Now, I'm familiar with both of them, but I need to make them work together. These are two applications and they need to work together somehow, right? I need a process to make them work. And I've got, with low code and no code, I've got screws, I've got machines, I've got glue, I've got everything there to make it work. Now, obviously, I still need to know a little bit about what I want. Otherwise, I might end up with a vertical shelf instead of a horizontal one, which won't make my books stand on them as easily as the horizontal one. But
it's
that for me
interesting.
is how it works.
It's interesting. Okay, so one of the key differences between the no code and the low code, a lot of times, is UX UI. And for those of you who aren't familiar with UX UI, that term, that's user experience, user interface, right? So a no code tool by itself, it's going to create a general solution, but it looks the same for everybody. Low code can take that solution with a little bit of coding, finishing, CSS. Man, I don't want to get off into the weeds here. But that's so instead of it just functioning, to use your analogy, right, of the apartment, the floor is structurally good with no code, but it may not look great. You might see the seams and stuff. So low code would come in and you add that custom finish so that the user interface, the user experience is better and it fits your brand. Is that correct, Nathaniel? Am I right on that? Again, this is not my expertise. This is just how I understand it.
I would I don't you yes. So I honestly think of it's more like the integrations that Jesse was talking about, and making sure we've got the right connectors and the right pieces talking to each other. Most of the time, the platforms that we're dealing with, low code, and have great user experience, great the way things look and the way things feel is really good. I mean, one of my go-to analogies is Legos, right? We love building Legos, and with Legos, you can build just about anything you want. And so the
Sure.
question is, how do I get my specific Lego construction? Well, I take the right pieces and put them together, and then I have my Lego construct. And they all look different, right? That your Lego construction and my Lego construction are going to look very different. Even if we're both told build a wagon, right? Or build a house, my house and your house are going to look different. The blocks are the same though. And the reason that they're different is because of the way we place them together. And that's what that's what no code is all about. That's the benefit of these things is I can take those different blocks, put them together, and then if I need special tools or special things, that's where no code, or excuse me, low code comes in. But it's not that it's just a different way of connecting things and making things talk to each other. So yeah, I think that's a best example to compare that. But it's not that the user experience or user interface is a tweak.
Yeah, I think we're talking about slightly different things. You're talking about inside the tool. I'm talking about that's okay. We'll come back around to this. We've got a question from Brady. It's actually more of a statement, but it is about Excel spreadsheets. And we wrote a tongue in cheek article for Low Code Road called Escape Excel Hell. So, certainly, that is something that a lot of people will come to these tools about data. So, let's do this, gentlemen. Let's take a little bit of a pause on what no code and low code is. Let's talk about the companies. We're going to now introduce the foundation. So, people have problems that they need to solve. Usually they're in the form of growing pains. But from there, how you do it and what you address, let's learn a little bit about your companies and then we'll go into it. So again, just to keep our theme, Jesse, we'll have you go first and we'll talk about Triggre, and then Nathaniel will come back and allow you to talk about low code road so we can kind of get the idea of what your companies offer for no code and low code solutions. Here we go. I just got to switch to this screen right there. All right. So we're at Triggre. I teased Jesse. I said it's supposed to be ER, but that's because I'm American and we do it like that. So Triggre is what, Jesse?
Well, Triggre is, as it says here, it's a business application platform. So you can build a business application with Triggre. What is that? Well, a business application, for example, is a warehouse management system or a customer relation management system. If you want to have it custom, we mostly focus on internal applications and business-to-business applications. That's what we're good at. Like if you want a consumer-facing application, we'll tell you to maybe go for a low-code solution or something else that gets you more customization, because usually that's what's needed. So with Triggre, you can build these really advanced systems with a lot of logic, business rules, etc. And one really good example of that is we saw that the comment about the Excel and people can use that. We have customers who say like, yeah, so we have this Excel, right? And there's like a bunch of macros in there and everything. And we don't dare to touch it anymore because the person who made it has left years ago. And we open the sheet and we go to cell A2 and we just faint. This is what happens. Like, oh my God, what's going on? So when you sort of encounter those things, that is when people are looking for solutions to make something that is easier to manage, easier to also to use for them, and that's where Triggre comes in for those sorts of custom internal tools. Usually, we do, for example, projects that do customer portals for business to business. But one of the bigger ones in I think in the US that you might know is NCR, National Cash Register, who uses Triggre for their warehouse management system. And they use it around the globe just to save on shipping costs, for example. So there's a lot of ways that you can do this. As I was mentioning, if you know your process well and you know where you can make savings, then a low-code tool can really quickly get you that savings, and especially if it's internal processes that you want to automate or streamline. Triggre is fantastic for that.
Yep.
So one of the things I think that no code does really, really well is to help lighten the load for paperwork.
Yeah.
Right. So if you have a paper heavy process in your business and you're looking for a way to streamline it, to automate it, if you will, that is what I think people should really be coming to you, Triggre, and to Low Code Road to explore. Am I right in that?
Yeah, I think so. Where paper can also be sort of now digitalized with Excel or something else, where you shoot over these files to others. I mean, that's there's a difference between digitizing something and digitalizing something. You can make any paper into a digital document, but that doesn't mean that you can actually then automate your process around it.
100%.
So yeah, but those processes really are, I would say, the low-hanging fruit that you can take out of your company very quickly, and they give you a lot of time savings. And so also with time savings, obviously, either increases in revenue or savings in costs, depending on how you handle the results of that. Yeah.
Let's one more follow-up question. I'm going to switch over to Nathaniel, and we're going to talk about low code road here in just a second. But you had put out a report
Yeah.
earlier last week that I'm still reading. It's fascinating data. But one of the things that caught my attention was the amount of return on investment. So you're talking about
Yeah.
low-hanging fruit, digitizing and streamlining this process, making it faster, more effective. You don't have to necessarily worry about stepping on an exploding landmine in an old Excel data sheet, Excel sheet. Like, okay, that formula is set. We can't change it because who knows who even wrote it at this point, right? Um, can you give us an idea if somebody's watching? Let's say they're a business manager or business owner, and they've not updated their processes. They're still using the original processes, and they know they need some help. What kind of return on investment can they expect on
Yeah.
that kind of a project?
Yeah. So this is gonna sound incredible, or
It is. That's why I'm
inconceivable.
asking. Because when I saw that number, I was like,
Inconceivable.
It is
no
awesome.
way.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. My favorite movie character would say that it's inconceivable, but it's 2,560% on average, which is crazy. So that's
Okay.
that's not me not being an English native speaker.
Yeah. Time out.
That's a lot.
2,500.
Time out. Business
2,500.
owner. Did you hear that, business owner? Like, I'm not trying to say you need to buy a product or do something right now. Look, this is just information. But if somebody comes to me and says there's an ROI of 2,560%, that's not the right way to say that mathematically, but you understand what I'm saying. 2,560% is something that any business owner, every business owner should immediately take pause and go, what? Like, that's a big number. My
Yep.
profit margin is not 2,560. So if I can do anything that will
No.
increase my return on investment by 2,560, I think that that's something that they want to look at. All right.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just
And then
thank you, Jesse. Thank you for explaining what Triggre is, for adding a little levity to the conversation, and for giving us that big number. Nathaniel, no pressure, but we need to top 2,560 here somehow. I don't know, but we can. Oh, we can. When you're talking about low code road, which I would like you to do now, I have a follow-up question that might be business owners. Stay tuned because there might be something that's even better than a 2560, and I'll give you a hint. It comes by the way of the one resource you can't get more of, right? You can't buy more of this. So,
Absolutely.
all right, let's go, Nathaniel. Give us a rundown on who is low code road, and I'm gonna put it up on the screen so we can see
Yeah,
it here.
absolutely. So Low Code Road, we're a development agency. We partner with businesses, and we help them achieve those types of uh, ROIs that we're talking about here. We work with them. Triggre is one of the major tools that we use. We're currently building a Triggre platform for a publishing company that are they're going to be using Triggre to manage their entire author flow when we're done. And we're excited about that because that's going to allow them to get away from a bunch of other tools that they're using, centralize into one single platform, and then have their entire team working on the platform with reporting as well. So, the executive team isn't going to have to dig into the weeds. So we do a lot of different things. We do no code development, low code development, and we do the integrations as well. We call that fusion. That's a Microsoft term that they put together, and then we also provide support for our partners.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and I'm one of them at Bowman Digital Media. I can speak to this firsthand. After the solution is created, what I love about it is, you're not
no,
by
we don't go
yourself.
away. We
Yeah,
don't go away. You're
they
not
don't
on
go, they
your own.
don't go away. They continue to help you. They check in on me and make sure, like, hey, what about this? What about that? I love it. I want to just point this out. We had put this up a few weeks ago. This is no code and low code development tools can change business 1,000 times for the better, which is not an exaggeration. As you just heard from Jesse a second ago, right? What did he say? 25-60% ROI. That's what you can expect on average. Some of them are more, right? But Nathaniel, I'm showing this to people. If they are not familiar with what no code and low code is, they can come here and they can get a deep dive.
Yeah,
right? We even
absolutely.
access we talk about Triggre, Jesse, you'd be happy, right? There's a link to Triggre right there. We talk about some of these tools which we haven't really got into. We're going to get into that in a little bit. We're going to talk about no code tools and then low code tools in just a minute. But and we've talked about the differences, but I love it. So we're kind of following this storyline of the differences just so that our audience, and we still have 34 people live watching us on LinkedIn right now, which is good. We're holding their attention. So now we're going to get a little bit deeper into it. A low code tool. Why does the world need low code and no code solutions? What's the point of it? And then I'm going to ask you a question related to this right here as a follow up. So what would you say? What's the biggest reason they need? Maybe not even the no code. What? Why do we need low code? Right? The no code is for people like me. I'm not a coder. I want a solution. I'm going to go to Triggre or another no code platform. I'm going to try to create one by myself. Why does the world need low code?
Well, you want me to take this one, Jesse?
No, I
Yeah,
do.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think I
Nathaniel.
think
All
you're the
right.
more
No,
you're the more trustworthy source when it comes to the general answer
well,
here.
the reason, Ira, is because we need solutions. The number of developers in the world today, compared to the demand, the supply and demand ratio is way out outsized. The number of developers, even here in America, with all the layoffs, they're all getting snapped up. All of the people that are losing their jobs, they're getting snapped up right away. And the reason is that there is so much more of a demand than there is a supply. And so for a business, for the average business, in order to grow, in order to improve, what we were talking about earlier, they need to have tools to help them do that. And that's what low code and no code are all about. It gives them those tools, it gives them that ability to grow, to scale their operations, to streamline their processes, and get visibility into the operations that are already happening around the organization. Organizations large and small are doing this. I work for a government agency here in Tennessee. They're switching all of their operations away from their developers, not because they don't have, they're going to lay off their developers, because their developers are too busy. So they're switching to low code and no code platforms to solve their business needs, even at large government organizations, because of the fact that there's just not enough bandwidth in the market space to supply the demand that already exists.
There is a huge burden on IT departments
There's
around the globe
absolutely,
to what
absolutely.
Nathaniel is talking about here, right? Now, I run a nonprofit called Project Help You Grow, and I have noticed what Nathaniel is talking about. There is still a high demand for people who know how to code, right? So, one of the questions that I get asked, and I see this online as I'm doing research for my work with Low Code Road, right? In full disclosure, we help with the marketing at Low Code Road. So, one of the things that I see on a regular basis is this question. It's usually tongue in cheek, I think, right? People being a little snippy, but what they're asking is, Nathaniel, is will no code and low code tools make coders obsolete?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
I
absolutely not.
mean, it's giving them leverage, right? It's giving them leverage to empower more people to solve their needs without using the skills of a coder. It's like, I don't know. Think about like kitchen utensils. Is having electric machines that'll do your bread baking going to put bakers out of business?
Yeah,
No, it
right.
doesn't. I don't. I
Here's a great analogy for me and for my audience. Everybody in the world, I think, knows at this point that Ira Bowman is a professional photographer, right? But how many people have these cameras on their phones? You could
oh
take a
yeah,
picture, and the picture quality is getting better and better and better,
50
right?
megapixels.
You can snap photos. I've got a Pro Max in full disclosure. I love it. And I got this particular one because at the time it had the best camera on it. So I'm like, if I'm going to have a phone, this can become redundancy. If all my cameras fail and everything, I'm totally out of luck. I got something, right? But let me ask you guys this question. Do you think photographers, the number of photographers in the world has gone down since these have come out, or up? A lot of people might be surprised with this, but there's more photographers now than ever before.
Mhm.
So it's not, when you're talking about low code and no code solutions, the one thing, if you're a coder out there, to our point earlier, you're in high demand. And we have a
Yeah.
question. Actually, this doesn't really fit our show topic. It does loosely, right? Like, should I learn Ruby? Should I learn Python? What, C plus plus still? What
Yeah.
what language should I learn? Um,
Well, let me, with the background in coding, answer
yeah.
this with the worst answer ever is it depends. I'm really sorry. Uh,
I love it
it
because I
does.
was like, is he
But
going to talk about Java here?
no,
Where
no,
are we
no. I
going?
mean, I'm a fan of certain things, but the thing is, there's so many different ones that have different applicabilities, and this is exactly what makes it so hard to develop, right? So on our team, right, we have database specialists, we have data specialists, we have infrastructure engineers, we have JavaScript engineers, we have C# engineers. We have so many different languages only in one tool because you then don't have to worry about that.
Right.
So it really depends on what you want to achieve. And I would say that more important than to learning a specific language is actually learning what's behind that, like the concept of it. So if you go into anything, start with the concepts and understanding how computers work internally first, and then build it up from there. In terms of sort of the no code and low code use, I would say that, as you say, Nathaniel, like it leverages coders, right? So imagine that you're a hotshot Formula One race car mechanic, right? You're really good at your job, but you're also helping people who have a broken side mirror. That's sort of the thing. Like these people with these skills, these coders, they're like the Formula One type mechanics. Do we want to put them on a Formula One car where they can actually like really work with the really
What's under the
tough
hood? Yeah.
That's
solutions,
great. Yeah.
problems to solutions, or do we want them to solve our blinker not working or whatever small problem I have with the dashboard light not going on when I open the
Yeah.
dashboard?
Well, I'll take it even further than that, right? Let's say you have a team of Formula One mechanics, just to stay inside this analogy, right? You've got 3 of them, but you've got 562 cars in line
Yeah.
Yeah.
waiting to be helped, right? And the
Yeah.
wait, the queue to get the
Keeps getting
job
longer.
out is, 18 months, 24 months long. And correct me if I'm wrong, because this goes back to the follow-up question for Nathaniel that we didn't get to, but we're going to get to it right now in this analogy. You don't necessarily need that Formula One mechanic or NASCAR, to bring it back to America, right? You don't need that
Yes, I
NASCAR
do.
mechanic, that Formula One mechanic. You don't need these guys who have all these skills to create this program with no code and low code tools. It's a DIY. This is a popular phrase in America right now. DIY, do it yourself. These are ways that have tools that have been created to help you do it yourself. And low code, where we haven't gone with this yet, but I want to bring it in right here. Okay, where low code tools still help even the Formula One mechanic or the NASCAR mechanics, these professional race car pit crews, right? I've got some rednecks screaming, yeehaw! All right, here we go.
Yeah.
They can get it done faster. Just because you know how to custom code everything doesn't mean you need to custom code everything, right? So you might have some stuff that does need to be finagled right at the end with the low code, and that's why it's low code and not no code, right? If you don't need any code, then it's no code. If you need a little bit to finish it, then it's low code. So here's the thing: you've got those 562 cars in line. I can get them through the line so much faster, even if I need the mechanic, one of the 3 mechanics to touch it up. But now I'm processing the orders faster, and I can get to that 2560. I can get that ROI with what? With time. It makes time faster. And as I referenced before, Nathaniel, that's the one thing we can't. It's a resource none of us can buy.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
low code tools. To me, one of the biggest advantages of low code tools is, helping your existing staff to get things done faster. Am I right
Faster.
there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's streamlining those processes that normally take hours. We've worked with companies and cut it from, 4 or 8 hours on a day to 15 minutes. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden that person that was working for somewhere between a half day and a full day to get ready for a weekly meeting, they're no longer involved. They've got time, right? It is the most important, the most precious thing that we have. Generating reports, analytics, PDFs, all of these things, invoicing, um, taking, all of the things. And Jesse, you could probably come up with a whole bunch more,
Yeah.
but all of these things that we're doing, we can easily start with a baseline, and then customize it and tweak it for a business's specific needs.
Let me interject
Yeah.
something that is interesting and relevant to the audience watching the show. We have business owners, we have job seekers, we have people that are currently employed too. We have a whole variety of people watching, still at 34, currently watching us live on LinkedIn, which is great. Have you guys heard of this term quiet quitting?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Quiet quitting, for those of you who are not familiar with this term, it's an HR kind of a term, a recruiter's kind of a term. What it means is the employees are still there, but they've quit going the extra mile. They're like, that's not my job. I'm frustrated. This is dumb that I have to do this tedious crap. I'm still using Excel spreadsheets from 1987 because nobody's taking the time to update and give me a modern tool. I'm frustrated. So I'm not giving you extra effort anymore. In fact, I'm looking for a job probably while you're paying me. Okay.
Yep.
But this is one of those things that can help reduce that frustration, keep your top talent happy by bringing in these resources. So let's talk about this a little bit, right? How do we do it? Jesse, if I asked you, you had mentioned earlier NCR or I'm sorry, the cash register company,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And you talked about logistics. So let's just walk through like a case study real quick. And then Nathaniel, I'm going to come back to you and ask the same thing. Can you give
Yeah.
us a quick synopsis, a
Yeah.
real life
I'll do it.
situation?
I'll do a different company though.
Yeah. And you
It's
don't have to
it's
name them. It can be hypothetical.
yeah.
It's okay.
It's no, but this is a really cool thing. It's a Dutch company that makes sustainable small houses, and they're modular. And they use Triggre first and foremost. They have a CNC machine. Now, for those who don't know what a CNC machine is, a CNC machine is a cutting machine for materials. In this case, wood. So you have ones that make your iPhone. Those are more advanced. You have the ones that make wood. You program them, and they cut very specific, very exact shapes. So the problem that they had was programming this thing with the right drawings to cut the right shapes. And how long does that take? Because some shapes take longer, blah blah blah. So it's important that this machine runs all the time because they're expensive, right? So they made an application to just do the planning. This was their first step. And then when you have one part of that automated, or you want to call it a support application for that, then the next question comes in, and you're like, what's the next thing that we can automate, right? So now you have a person who has saved that time, as Nathaniel said, maybe from 4 or 8 hours to like 15 minutes, right? And then the next question is from the next department over, like this is just production of the parts. But then from assembly, you get this question like, yeah, oh, this part didn't come out right, or it broke. I broke it during assembly. Can we push it to the top of the stack to be produced as fast as possible? Now, this used to take a lot of time before, but now because it's all automated, it can just push it into the top of the stack. The application will calculate exactly how long it takes, make sure that it pushes it in the right order. So the user just has to click the right drawing on the machine when it starts it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so that sort of iterative improvement process where you go like, okay, what's the next thing that we can improve? We actually wrote a whole white paper on how you can do this with some sort of hands-on tools. So this is not, I'm not saying that this doesn't even relate to Triggre itself necessarily. It's just, you can do this with anything, but it's a way to continuously improve your business. That time saving and then reusing that time to save more time, that is, I think, the key to this sort of automation and improvement process.
100%. And for those of you who don't understand what he's talking about reducing queue time, reducing production time, which means you're turning over your orders faster and you're generating more revenue. Your sales team can go out and bring in um, more clients, more projects,
Exactly.
and turn more
Yeah.
revenue. And also, your employees are more productive because now instead of waiting 15 minutes for the pre-press operators, just to get a little bit technical here on who's doing what, but those pre-press operators who are getting the files ready to put into that CNC queue don't have as much work to do on that. So now they're turning, you know what I mean? It's just more efficient all the way across the board. You can either run leaner, meaning you can necessarily not have to replace everybody when they go somewhere else, or you can bring in more projects and increase your bottom line, your top line and your bottom line. So
And I
Nathaniel,
think also, yeah, and one small thing is that it's a big one, but it's for the people that you were talking about, the silent quitters. This is something that really gives them a really good sense of purpose, and they'd rather be working on
yeah.
improving processes and everything than just clicking the next button on the CNC machine all day long.
Absolutely.
Or waiting 15 minutes for something to process, right? It's
Yeah,
like, okay,
exactly.
well, I have nothing to do. I'm going to go take a coffee break or
Yeah.
whatever. People at the end of the day, they want to feel like they accomplished something.
Yeah.
Most of us do, right? Nathaniel,
Yes.
let's switch this over to the low code. Probably very similar. Some of the things that could be done there. I think you could do the exact same thing, frankly. But if
Absolutely.
you want to give maybe another case study on another,
Yeah.
on
So so
another
here's a fun one. Installation, right? Installations. Uh, can you guys hear me?
we can.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, sorry. Installations for tracking inventory and installations, and scheduling them, right? We worked with a company out in St. Louis. They do insulation, right? They insulate houses, and so they were using clipboards. Each day was a separate clipboard, and that's how they knew what installations they were doing that day for their equipment.
So that was
Um,
their project management
their project
system.
management was literally paper on a clipboard, and they had 20 clipboards on the wall,
Gotcha.
and one for each day of the month. And so then they would go up to that day's clipboard, pull it off, look through the inventory, and then they would have to fill the trucks based on their guesses as to what they'd need. We got that streamlined. Now they've got photo capability. Now they've got inventory management. They can track exactly what got put on the truck, knowing exactly how much is left at the end of the day. All of the things that reduce inventory, increase process management. And the company was very happy with that at St. Louis, so they expanded it to their Kansas City Chiefs. Sorry, their Kansas City branch as well.
Ah,
So
don't say the Chiefs.
their
That's a sorry.
warehouse their
I'm in
warehouse team
pain.
is, yeah, sorry.
That's all right. But there's something we haven't really talked about, and it's a great segue. But loss prevention for those of you,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Inventory. So when you are animating this process and you're going from paper and clipboards, how archaic, to an automated system, a digital system, that is one of the things, not only for efficiency to reduce how much you need to buy, but also how much is escaping out the side door, because a lot of these folks have side hustles, and instead of using their own materials, buying their own materials, they can, you know, take stuff off the truck. When it's a paper product or a paper managed product or process, it can be easier to steal, unfortunately, than when things are cataloged digitally and maintained by a manager
Yeah.
and have extra oversight. Let's do this. This is one thing that I see when I Google no code and low code. You and I have talked about this several times, Nathaniel, Jesse. We talked about this in the green room prep for the show. Security seems to be one of the questions. The hijackers, the Trojan horses, the syntax that's exposed, right? There's backdoor access, the nefarious hacker, you know what I mean? So let's just get this out, this elephant that's in the room. What would you say if I said no code and low code is blank safe? Is it more safe? Is it just as safe? Is it less safe? Let's talk about safety a little bit. If I'm going to use a no code tool to help automate a solution for my business, am I at higher risk than if I hire a professional to do it? Or am I at lower risk? Or where am I at on that scale? We're going to flip this around. Nathaniel, I've been picking on you last every time. I'm going to pick on you first. Give me your thoughts on this. Let's do like 30-second answer here.
Well, all right. So there's two sides compared with what you've got right now, right? So there's an opportunity cost question. We're talking about loss management, right? Inventory management. So if you're dealing with opportunity cost versus what we've got right now, you're heads and shoulders better off going with a low code or no code solution rather than what you have right now, generally speaking. Compared with a full stack development, you're still at risk either way. You have to have a great trusted partner that you're going to be working with for the long term. And we do a lot of vetting with all of our different companies that we work with because of that. And then I think if you even go with traditional software development, you've now become a software company. You are now needing to maintain that software for the life of the software. It's not something that you can just turn off. You can say, "Oh, build this," and then go away, because now you're, even if it was built with the best practices 2 years ago, you're now at massive risk because of the new technologies, the new risks that people have found, the new things that we're dealing with. And so I would say, yeah, there's no reason not to go with a low code or no code solution because it's a better solution for the
Yeah.
organization.
And to that point, when you're talking about being locked in, there's people out there right now who are using XP computers with
Well,
not
talk
even
about the
they're not even on
IRS.
Windows
Go
10.
to the IRS. Have
Yeah,
you
they're
seen the
still
news?
they're still on this old technology. They can't upgrade. Why? Because the software that they have,
They
you know,
can't find anyone to
they've
maintain it anymore. They
yeah,
can't
they've
find the
grandfathered it in.
hardware.
They've grandfathered it in. There's no hardware that works anymore. The software company's out of business. So they're locked into this old, and talk about vulnerabilities. When we're talking about
Yeah.
security, which is the question at hand here, now you're really at risk because you're using
Yes.
stuff that nobody's patching for and protecting you anymore.
Correct.
All right, Jesse, what would you say to that question? So I'm using no code or low code solution. I'm at what type of risk? I'm at no risk, lower risk, same amount of risk, or higher risk than if I don't use it.
Well, obviously, I'm going to say that you're at a much lower risk, but I can back it up. I
Yeah,
promise.
back it up.
Yeah,
Give me
so
some ammunition here.
yeah, so one of the things that, for example, when we do a release of our platform, right, we have this test suite, automated test suite, and it runs for a week. It's like it just goes through all these cases. It retests all of these defects that we've found internally in the past and everything, and checks them. It runs penetration tests. Penetration tests are trying to hack the system
Yeah,
automatically. So it does all these
ethical
things.
hacking.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we try to make it non-ethical. We try to hack our system, obviously ourselves, but the thing is that what you do with that is, as Nathaniel was saying, like if you build your own software, this is also what you have to do. And again, it comes down to being a specialist or not. So we specialize in this. And this is also where you can see that we are a technology company, and we don't provide the services on that. We want to specialize in making sure that you get the best platform with automatic upgrades so you don't have to worry about the security. So is it 100% foolproof? No, no one can sort of say like, no, this is 100% foolproof. It's like you can't build a building that no one can break into. Like
You don't want
impossible.
to make the Titanic of software and tell everybody it's
No,
unsinkable, because
no, exactly.
it is, right?
That's
Yeah.
but you can keep on improving it over time without harassing a customer, a user all the time with, oh, there's a new version of this, or but you still get the updates with the latest security patches and everything. And that is a very big advantage, because as a business user, honestly, we had this question about which language should I learn? Okay, this is going to sound weird coming from me, but who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares which language it is? Who cares what technology is underneath it? We care about the 25, 60%. We care about the time wins that we get. If it's built with a paper clip and a pen, if it does its job and it's safe, then I'm good with that. So you should not be focusing on sort of the intricacies there, and you shouldn't want to become a software company per se. You want to become a software using company that uses software and preferably custom, because that gives you your competitive advantage to the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of trying to mimic what we do and what we're good at.
Yeah. And
100%.
I mean, no one's an email company anymore, right? It used to
No.
be that we had to have our own email servers and all this kind of stuff. Today, we
Yeah.
just go to Google or Microsoft or some other company and say, "Oh,
Yeah.
give me email," and they do it for you. Why?
Yeah.
Because I don't. It's so much cheaper, so much better, and I don't have to worry about headaches like spam and making sure all of my I's are dotted, T's are crossed, that the email's delivered correctly. All of that's handled by some other company for me, and
Yep.
that's exactly what low code and no code do.
Well, I'll tell you that there's tools inside. I'm going to do something. I didn't really plan on doing this, but I want to give people an example.
We did not rehearse this.
We did not rehearse. We did not rehearse this at all.
No.
Whenever Ira is doing this, I did not have anything to do with it if it goes wrong.
Yeah. So, I mentioned this earlier. I'm a photographer. Hang on a second. My computer's a little slow when I'm sharing my screens, but inside. Oh, I took the share off for some reason. Okay. Hang on. So inside of Photoshop, I used to take forever with something called masks, right? So what we would do is, if we were to open a file, hang on a second. Like I said, I really did not plan to do this, so this is going to take just a second. So inside, if you're in Photoshop and you wanted to, take an image, and let's just say I wanted to take this one. I don't know why. Actually, I'll take this one. It'll be easier. Okay, so there's Ira in a green shirt, right? So if I want to take this file, in the past, what I would have to do to get the background removed, right? This is a tool that you see a lot of people using. What I would have to do is I would have to create a another layer or a mask layer. Okay, so in this case, I would just mask it up, and then I would come here with a tool, and I'd have to be in black and white mode, which I can't even really show you on this screen the way it's set up. Oops, hang on a second. I'm trying to see if I can show you guys. Yeah, this isn't gonna. Hang on. This is a bad demo, a quick demo, but a bad demo. Let's just make this bigger. Okay. So then what I could do is I could come here. I would have to create a new layer, or it would be, crystal clear underneath, right? Okay. But instead, what I can do now to get to that underlayer, if I want, what I can do is I can do this. I can hit this guy here, and then I can hit image. I'm sorry, select. And I can hit select subject. It will take a second to calculate, but it's going to create a dotted line all the way around the outside of the main image. Now, notice I didn't have to tell it what the subject of the photo was, which is a little bit creepy when you think about it, right? This is artificial intelligence that's doing this. But this is all a part of what you guys do in the background, right? You create you create this code that says, okay, how to identify the main object? And then what am I going to do with this? I'm actually going to remove the background automatically. I was watching the Super Bowl last night. Nathaniel referenced the Chiefs. It's painful for me because I'm a Raiders fan. It is what it is. Jesse, this is just American football. Anyways, so now you see how I'm blinking? Now what I can do is I can hit this button, and it's going to automatically take all this stuff away for me. And then I can take that and I can put it inside of a graphic like that without having to spend hours. I used to spend anywhere from a half hour to a couple hours. That's all I'm going to show you because that wasn't really planned. But that process used to take me a half hour to a couple hours just for one image, right? Now I can do it. I'm just telling you, I can do it in about 90 seconds on average.
Yeah.
Takes it usually about 60 seconds to find it. It takes me a couple more seconds to hit the mask layer, and then I have to save it, which takes another 10, 15 seconds, and I'm done. And now I can take that PNG file and I can put it over the top of anything I want, or underneath, or in the middle, however I want to do it. But I was watching a commercial last night, for a Google phone that's coming out, and it's like,
Mhm.
take the. And so he said, "Oh, I could get rid of my X's." I don't remember the commercial, but I was like, you know, we've been able to do that for a long time. That's not relatively new, but that is no code and low code technology. That's what I mean when I say people have been using this type of programming for a long time, just probably unaware that they're using it. So either a
Mhm.
Yeah.
tool that was created with no code and low code technology, or they've been creating, like we said, with WordPress, probably the most common one that I can think of in my space, where we're using, these no code drag and drop tools is another way to say it, right? You're not creating the code and going in and editing lines of syntax and hoping that you got it correct. You didn't miss a
That's right.
character or add an extra space or whatever. It was a parentheses instead of a bracket. You know what I mean? Like there's all kinds of simple errors. And that's one thing that as we start to wrap this up, because we're in overtime now, as we start to wrap this up, one of the things that I would just want to tell people, like, if you're not sure where to go with this, one of the things that I suggest that you do, go over to Low Code Road. You can read about Triggre because Low Code Road is a vendor for Triggre. They utilize the Triggre platform to create projects. How do I know? Because they use Triggre to create a product for me at Bowman Digital Media. That's how I know. Firsthand experience. Okay. But you can talk with, and this is how it started. I had a conversation with Nathaniel about how I was doing things. And that's all he really wanted me to do. It was like, just go through your everyday processes with me. How do you communicate with your team? How do you communicate with your vendors? How do you communicate with your clients? Let's look at your workflow. And then he came up with some ideas and said, "Hey, what if we were to do this? Would that be cool?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be awesome." Right. It was all about making it more efficient. But for me as the business owner, I was excited because now I have a way to manage my business in a way that takes less time. So I can do one of two things. I can either get more sleep or I can pile it on higher and deeper and make more money. And both are appealing for different reasons. So as we come to a conclusion, as we start to draw this to a conclusion, I want to open it up to you guys, Jesse and Nathaniel. Let's go with Nathaniel first. What would be something we haven't talked about it yet? And you're like, man, we should have covered this. Is there anything like that where like, this would have been really good to talk about? Is there anything like that that I forgot because this is not my expertise to ask you?
I might have to piggyback on something Jesse says, but honestly, I think we've covered the key components.
Okay, good.
Um, I think we have. It's a huge value add, huge ROI, um, for a business to go ahead and streamline their operations. And low code and no code are the best ways to do that in today's marketplace.
We wrote an article on Low Code Road and we're talking about Jesse. I'm going to keep going back to this number 2560 ROI because it's just a huge number. In the article, we didn't go nearly that. Now I'm thinking I need to change that article. But in the article, we talk about ROI of 10 times, right? So it's 10 times cheaper is what we're talking about in the article. But I make a bold claim in the article about being 100 times faster. So if you're watching this and you're looking for a way to speed things up and make things less expensive, we call it in the article, we call it 1,000 times better. This is what we're talking about. It's saving time and money, which is every business owner's dream, how to do things faster and less expensive and eliminate mistakes and eliminate the, like we're talking about, Nathaniel,
Oh
in
my
your answer,
gosh,
which
I could tell you
I
horror
love.
stories.
Yeah. Well, I loved what you were talking about from the clipboard example, or
Yeah.
the person who's now in the software business, Jesse, who
Yeah.
they can't update their systems because that company's gone. Like you've given yourselves so much more options. So let's do this. Jesse, is it, first of all, before I get to this final question for each of you, is there anything that I forgot? You're like, you know what? I wish you had asked me about that, or we should have talked about this too. Did I miss anything?
No, I think this is a really good opening thing. I do have at the end a pro tip that anyone can use in their business
Yeah.
with no code. Yeah.
Well, thank you for leading into that because that's my next question is, okay, if you could leave the audience then with any one final thought, like, okay, we don't know where they are. The audiences can be from, like I said, there's business owners watching for sure. There are job seekers out there for sure. There are department managers out there for sure. There are entrepreneurs. There are even coders who are watching this going, should I step into the fray and become a no code, low code specialist, or should I continue to work on, like I said, any of the one particular codes that they're mastering? Nathaniel, what would your advice be, or your one pro tip, as Jesse's going to leave us with a pro tip? What would you like to leave the audience with?
I think a pro tip is definitely look at it. Definitely look at low code, no code. I believe it's the direction of the future. It is very much the Wild West right now, and what we are doing is we are seeing that this is going to be the new thing for the next 10 to 20 years minimum, similar to the way the World Wide Web was back in 2000.
Yeah, no, I agree. 100% agree. Everything that I'm a marketing guy. All the research I've done, all the stories that I've read, everything points to, in fact, even, the report that you guys put out, Jesse, the PDF report, the trends all look like this is only starting to gain steam.
Yes.
This isn't anywhere yet. We're still in the
No.
starting blocks. Watch out. Yeah. So if you're an aspiring coder out there, don't stop learning the code, because that will help make you a more valuable asset to companies like Triggre, to companies like Low Code Road. You can become that, how do we say it? Formula One mechanic.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. You have to enjoy that mechanical process. If you want to solve the business problem, learn no code. If you want to solve the technical problems, become a coder.
Yeah.
Because that's the choice, and both are good. It's not like the one thing is worse or better than the other. They're just different in terms of what you can achieve with them, right?
Well,
that's the difference.
You can work inside the no code and low code world as a coder for the companies that are creating the tools that everybody else is going to use too.
Oh, absolutely.
This is the one thing I probably would say if I ask myself the question. I just want to make sure everybody understands all of these programs, everything, the stuff that I did in Photoshop, even though it was a little sloppy, all the stuff that you're using, whether it be on WordPress or, you're talking about, some of these tools. And we didn't get into that. Maybe that's the other thing that we could have done, is get into what are some common no code tools and some common low code tools, but we didn't get into that today, and that's all right. But one thing I will say is every bit of them use code. There is no program, there is no app or website. They all have code in them, guys. The difference is, and I'll go back to the analogy or the visual that Nathaniel used with Legos. Each individual Lego in the no code or low code space is a line of code or a group of code, a block of code that's been written by somebody else. And you stack the codes to build on the analogy. Because with Legos, what I could build that ship or that barn or that airplane or any other thing that I want to try to build, I can build it, and I can take those logos and arrange them in any given way and create something unique with it. But at the end of the day, I didn't have to know any of the code to create it. But if you're out there and you're like, my son right now is going to school for software engineering. He's learning code. He knows some code already. He went into college already knowing some code. But this is a field where, he and I had this conversation. Like, don't stop. The world's going to need you even more. Why? Because with all these no code tools, somebody has to create them. And then somebody has to, like you were talking about, Jesse, somebody has to test them and make sure that they're staying up to date and evolve them. So, if you're out there and you're a student and you want to learn something, don't shy away from software engineering. I'd say jump in even more, because the world, to me, is going to apps. It's going to web applications. It's going to websites. It's software. The world is more and more digital. Well, every person who can help create a software or an application that can be used in virtual reality and augmented reality and all of these things, that's where the world is going, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jesse, you have something that you wanted to leave us with. I've got the link ready to go. So if you want to talk about it.
We have a white paper for people to check out. Obviously, we have the report as well. But since we've been talking about improvement of your business process, this is also linked in our report. We have a white paper on how to scale up your business. It's a process. So it's just a way, sort of a framework to think about how can I improve my business. And one of the major things, like the pro tip that I want to give people is, here's this, right? You hear a lot about ChatGPT and GPT-3 and AI. How can I use that in my business process, right? You're thinking maybe, oh, I'm behind, I don't know all this stuff. There's a really simple little tool that I can give you as a reference to think about. GPT is good at making a text and sort of categorizing it, right? So what have we done in this regard? And this is something that everyone can use. We take emails and we ask GPT, hey, this email, is it like a positive response? Does this require a follow-up from us or not? And then GPT says yes or no. So we ask it to say yes or no. If it's yes in our process, in our Triggre application, because we use Triggre also, but in our application, if it's yes, it goes into a different process. If it's a no, it goes in another direction. This is a way that every business can already today use AI in their business processes in the simplest way possible, and it will save you a massive amount of time reading emails and parsing things.
I have a question regarding emails, but a little bit different. Let's say we have a database. I want to know, I'm going to ask you both a hypothetical question, and then I'm going to place an order for it after the show, because a real world scenario that I need right now. So one of the things that Bowman Digital Media did, and Nathaniel and I have not talked about this because this wasn't a service that I offered up until earlier this week. Last week now. But I announced this last week. I believe on Wednesday I announced it. Bowman Digital Media has a large database, a lot of companies do, of contacts. We have, the business name, email address, the title, all that stuff. So some of our clients are going to hire Bowman Digital Media to send out emails on their behalf. But instead of using a company like MailChimp or something like that that's going to send them all out at one time, there's advantages to not doing that. There's advantages to sending them out one at a time, right? So if I wanted to automate that process, how much time would it take? You got to be able to sync in with different email addresses. So it's not like for us, right? We're a marketing company. So it wouldn't be coming from Bowman Digital Media. Like it might be coming from Triggre or Low Code Road or any of the clients that we would have, right? So they would give us the credentials to an email that we could log in with. Then we'd have to program the headline, the subject, and then put in the body, and we'll do it one at a time. But we obviously would want to insert the first name, right? And we don't want first name here, right? Like, that's the Cody stuff. We don't want that to go up. But we want the first name there and then the body of the email. And then I didn't even think about what you just said, having Triggre read the responses and go, okay, now we're in a stack, the yes pile, the no pile, the no pile, the, hey, can you take me off your list pile? Because let's be honest.
Exactly.
Right. So how hard and how much, how can you give us a ballpark? I mean, obviously, I'm not going to hold you to this quote, but just give people an example. How much time are we talking about? Is it possible? How much time would it take? And about how much do you guys think it would cost?
I'll let Nathaniel answer this.
We did not.
Oh, you're putting us on the spot.
I have an idea in my mind how much time it would cost me with Triggre to build something, but
go ahead, Jesse. How much time is it going to take in Triggre?
So this it depends on how big of an application you are thinking about in terms of other functionality. But sending the emails this way would probably cost me, to make it good and usable, maybe a day or two max. Okay. I would say. And I would probably attack it in a slightly different way. But this is how I do. I would even do you one better. Because when it comes to spam rules and stuff like that, right? Yeah. Sending the same email to a lot of people is not the way to go. No, but you can, again, use AI. So you can ask GPT-3, please rewrite this email for me. And it will actually give you a rewrite of that email. And you can do this for every single email. So you send out specifically targeted emails, like they say the same message, but they're slightly different.
Yeah.
You're using artificial intelligence tweaking to rewrite it. The individual words, but it does mean that you can send them and they are more personalized. You can say like, look, this is a marketing person that I'm talking to, so make it sound a
Yeah.
little bit more amicable or formal. Yeah.
Well, that's what's cool about our database is we have their titles too. So we could
I know,
definitely,
right?
yeah, we could definitely do that. I love it. All right. So
Yeah.
you're saying a couple days. So for
Yeah.
me, like as a business owner, I can pay someone by the hour, which is full disclosure how I was doing it. I can pay somebody by the hour to send out these emails, right? And we'll do 40 or 50 of them in an hour, one at a time, copy paste.
Yeah, of course.
But we don't get that rewrite. So there's an advantage right off the bat.
Yeah.
And if they're sick or they're out or they quit, now I've got to train somebody, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, there's so many ways that you can optimize your personal processes. Personal meaning your business process. Yeah.
Now, imagine if you're watching this, you have something similar in your mind where you want to know how much time would it take? How much would it cost to create this solution? What I want you to do is reach out to me or reach out to Nathaniel or reach out to Jesse and ask them, right? And let them know. Do me a favor. Let them know you saw this show so they know that it was worth their extra 30 minutes. I've held them 30 minutes longer than I was supposed to, but it was worth their
Yep.
extra 30 minutes because you watched it and you have a business related question that you want to ask them. Guys, we are over time. I want to respect your time. So I'm going to give you just a few more minutes each. Any parting thoughts before we get out of here? Nathaniel.
No, thank you very much, Ira. I really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. And it's great to talk to you, talk to Jesse, and talk about the ways that we can help businesses save money, streamline their operations, and get a huge, huge ROI.
Yeah,
So
and not
yeah,
not just not just the money. I mean, the money is impressive, but to me,
right. It's
it's that
time.
time savings. And don't forget what I was talking about, guys. The keeping your rock star employees happier because they're not
Oh,
frustrated that
absolutely.
something is so dumb. Why do we have to do it this way? It's so inefficient, right? And the answer is you don't have to do that anymore. There is a way to do and keep your top talent happy. You don't have to pay them as much if they're satisfied. They're not going to leave you if they're satisfied. So business owners, if you're not thinking about, well, I'm making plenty of money and time's not really an issue, think about the overall satisfaction of your staff too. Jesse, any final parting thoughts here?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that what also is now really important is you might have thought as a like medium-sized or small-sized company, like, oh, but I have to get into software development. That's going to be expensive and everything. Low code and no code really make this actually accessible for the
Yes.
medium and the small-sized company. They make custom applications accessible for you. It's a completely different paradigm in that sense because you weren't able to do that before, but now you are. So I think that the best tip that I can give business owners is to start thinking in that way. Like, hey, I can actually improve these processes that seemed like they were very rigid until now to maximize that competitive advantage of your company being a unique company, doing your things in your way, and maximizing that with low code and no code. Yeah.
Yeah, I would I would say this. I would leave the audience with this. You don't have to know how it's going to happen. You don't even have to know if it's possible. All you have to do is come up with your pain points. What is the bottleneck in your operation? What is the thing if there was a genie out there in a bottle who could, you know, grant your wish, if your wish is business related, right? Process related, I would encourage you to reach out to Nathaniel specifically at Low Code Road.
Yes.
Why? Because Nathaniel's going to incorporate, when it makes sense, the Triggre no code solutions. And if it doesn't, then he'll go over to like Workato or one of the other low code tools that he has in his tool belt. He's got a variety of tools in his tool belt that he can come up with and his team can implement, but he doesn't know what you want fixed yet. So that's where you watching come in. You've got to be brave and say, you know what? This is what I really want to happen. Nathaniel, can your team of wizards, do their magic? And the answer almost always is yes. Sometimes it's no. And I respect that about Nathaniel, right? I
Yeah.
know for a fact that there are times where clients have a request and he goes, you know what? That's not something that we really can do with no code and low code tools. You need a full development team. And there is, like I said, we're not trying to tell you that, custom coding, custom software development is going away. By no stretch of the imagination have we said that. We're saying that a lot of the things can now be done faster utilizing no code and low code tools. And you don't necessarily have to pay a development team all this money to create it from scratch. They can use these tools to help speed it up and make it less expensive for you. Gentlemen, before we leave, just one last time, I want to show everybody how to get a hold of you guys. So Triggre, no code, is a platform that you can use to create some software. What kind of software? You can read about it at Triggre. That's TRIGGRE.com. Low Code Road is a company. Sorry, I'm still on this blog. Low Code Road is a company that utilizes both no code and low code tools, we can talk about, including Triggre, to help create solutions to fit your goal. Master your data, streamline your process, solve the problem. I love it. Here's something we didn't talk about that we really should have too. This also can increase your business value. How? Having custom software is something that goes on your books, and prospective buyers or people who are evaluating doing valuations of your company will go, oh, you've got custom software. Okay, that makes your company worth more money. Something we did not talk about at all. My bad, mea culpa. I should have talked about that. See, this is why you hire somebody who does more prep than me. I thought I was ready. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I will have the links to Triggre, to Low Code Road in this show. If you are joining us late, you can find the whole episode on my YouTube channel, but also we're going to have these videos available at Triggre, at Low Code, and at Bowman Digital Media, so you can see this anytime. We appreciate you being here. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful day.